Snoochie boochie, snarky hoochies. How are y'all doing tonight? It is your...
I was doing good until I watched Mallrats.
Yeah, tonight we're gonna kill our gods tonight.
Yeah. Oof. Just.
So I'm your buddy BPM Tom here.
Right. And I am his fat black man servant Chris. What?
Oh man.
Oof.
So we watched. So as you know, this is episode 2 of Kevin Smith Shorts and Jorts, our monthly podcast as a result of the generous donations of Extra Life to go back and rewatch every single Kevin Smith film, see how it holds up, and just give our takes on it. And I don't know about you, Chris, but I saw Mallrats not once, not twice, but 3 times in the past 24 hours. And I'm ready to talk about Mallrats.
Yeah. I only watched it once. So here's some fun facts. 1, I didn't know there was a director's cut until halfway through when you messaged me saying you were watching the extended cut. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that existed. 2, so I watched this and Clerks, this year so far. Clerks took me about 3 hours to get through, with pausing, taking notes and whatnot, for about 4 pages of notes. This took me 2 hours to get through, and I have 7 pages of notes. And going into this as a young adult, I saw this movie when I was 16, 17, which is probably the worst age to watch this movie. And it was my favorite movie for a long time. Going back to this is like, oh no, like this is like, oh, it's explaining something like me in many shitty things I've said and did around that age, because oh boy.
As always, by the way, just because we can only monitor so much, if anyone has anything to say regarding audio balancing or things that need to change in that front, let me know and I can take care of it. I'll give a little bit of my background with this movie. So I actually saw Clerks and Mallrats on the same day. I bought both of them on VHS and watched the both of them in my bedroom. Mallrats first. And I was maybe about 12, 13 when I saw them. And I actually... Oh, thank you, by the way, Chef, for that sub. I saw the both of them back to back. Oh god, we got 8-bit hype. God, it's reading out the sub goal. Okay. So I saw this movie I saw about 12, 13, and between Clerks and Mallrats, at that age, I actually liked Mallrats better. Maybe it was because it didn't have a weird naked clown in front of a child in front of it.
Yeah, that's right.
That has definitely changed over the years, back and forth, and now I don't want to say one is better than the other. We're gonna give a little bit of spoilers to how we feel towards the end, but it's odd. It's definitely a little bit of a times and feelings towards the movie can change for sure. But I think we should start off before actually getting into do we want to get into the story of Mallrats, the synopsis of it, or do we want to talk about how Mallrats came to be in the first place?
Wasn't the whole story because Clerks was blowing up the indie circuit scene, and some guy from Universal just handed Kevin Smith a ton of money and said, "Here, make a movie."
Pretty much exactly this. So someone from Universal, who I believe Alphaville Productions, approached Smith, who Clerks at this point was like, it had popped off, it was doing gangbusters, it was popular, and he was like, I like this, what's your next idea? And Kevin Smith was like, next idea? ? Because I think the only other idea he literally had in his back pocket was Dogma, and he was not ready to make that film yet. So he was like, how about Clerks in a mall? And he's like, great. The production of the movie was night and day for Smith. So for Kevin Smith, he filmed the first movie in the quick stop that he literally worked on. All of the set locations were in his hometown in New Jersey. All the people involved in the movie were his friends and family staffing in, doing a lot of the odd jobs. He had never worked with a I think the finding oh my god, Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Bridges. Yeah. Finding the main actors. I think that was the only, he didn't, have a talent scout with him. I think he just literally opened auditions and picked the person closest to it. So
a lot of local theater kids.
Yeah. So he auditioned, he when Mallrats was coming out, he wanted to film it in New Jersey. Instead, they filmed it in Minnesota.
Right, it was literally cheaper. Originally.
Yeah, literally down the street from where Fargo was being filmed.
It's also wild because the mall he wanted to shoot it at was roughly a half an hour from where my ex-wife grew up in. Same county, which is insane. Yeah, it's on Wikipedia. I was like, oh, I know that mall. I've been to that mall. I actually bought my copies of Tales of Vesperia from that mall. Shit, out Tales of Vesperia for the Xbox 360.
But apparently the mall was super abandoned at the time, and they loved it because literally all the storefronts had all the storefronts were just vacant. So they basically made a hotel out of it, and everyone who worked on the film just got drunk and crashed in the mall and lived on set for a couple of weeks, which sounds like the most fun film set a person can be involved in.
I want to get drunk with young Ben Affleck. Which, oh man, I'm excited to talk about young Ben Affleck.
The amount of people who got initially who read for stuff for this part are insane. It was
oh god, yeah,
Mark Wahlberg,
Brody,
Jennifer Love Hewitt. They had 5 people audition for Jay. He had to go up against Seth Green to basically play himself, and even Seth Green was like, "I can't accept this role. It has to be Muse. It has to be Muse."
I want to see Kevin Smith opposite Seth Green and how that played out. I also have a Seth Green story to tell later at the end. My favorite part was, though, Adam Sandler was one of the finalists.
And Chris Farley?
Brody?
Yeah.
I would have killed to see Adam Sandler talk about Wolverine's berserker rage. That would have ruled ass.
That would have been so fucking good. But god, yeah. So, oh my god, so many people auditioned for it, and for Kevin Smith, he's like, yeah, he's like, Reese Witherspoon auditioned for this movie,
right?
And Kevin Smith was like, yeah, you're not, no,
right? Don't waste your career on this. Except you, Affleck.
He's like, Affleck, we're gonna fucking, he's like, I'm gonna fuck your entire career up, but everyone else, nah.
Repeatedly, by the way, this is gonna be a recurring motif in our friendship.
Yeah, this is gonna be it's wild thing that this is the film that basically established in every single way possible the Views universe, from the introduction of Jason Lee and Brody, and Ben Affleck, and
it's wild how many characters will continue to appear in this universe as different characters, except for the two leads.
Do you know what I think is the most wild to me is, out of every single person who was in this movie, the person who had probably the most relevant career in 2021, with possibly the exception of Ben Affleck, is Michael Rooker.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Who played Brandy's dad, right,
aka fucking Guardians of the Galaxy and The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking, yeah.
It's fucking wild to me to think of, if you have to rank the star power in 2021 of everyone involved in this movie, everyone who they thought was going to be, the big star names, what the fuck has Shannon Doherty done in the past,
I'm not sure I want to go down the hole. I mean, I do want to go down the hole, but, that also sounds like a sex thing. That was not the intent. I wanted the drama, not the sex. I apologize if that came off as crash. You blew my mind, Tom. This was Jason Lee's first acting role.
Yeah, he was a skateboarder.
His character is a bad guy, but he's good in this movie.
He sells this movie. He out-Randalls Randall.
Yes.
And
I think he's a different type of character. Same cloth, but also different. Yeah.
Which is ironic because in universe, both of them both of them are related. They are, at the very least, cousins, if not second cousins, or
Right. The Flanagan connection.
Yeah, which God. Okay, so now that we got a little bit about the creation of this movie out of the way, which again for Kevin Smith, he was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like literally, the actors in this film who knew more about making a movie than Kevin Smith told him what to do. Like Ben Affleck had done more movies at that point, and Jeremy London had done more movies at that point. And at the end of at the end of each day, they'd cut, and Kevin Smith would start to like roll up wires and put film away because they didn't have a fucking crew on Clerks. But he was doing that, and he literally had his actors come up to him going, yo, Kevin, nah, unions and shit like that, you can't do that. Like, you don't have to do that, you're the fucking director, you don't have to do that. I want to see just like the footage of him going like, oh.
Him making his own coffee.
I don't.
Okay, so we're about 60 minutes into this, and we haven't talked about the movie yet. We should probably start. So speaking about the Brody Dante bloodline, this movie starts off with a Walt Flanagan story involving him sodomizing himself with a cat repeatedly. Which, imagine like being a teen in like 1995, and that's how this movie starts.
You sit down, you got your popcorn, they just did that, let's all go to the lobby, and before a single piece of music is heard, just hear Jason Lee, the first line of his career, his illustrious career in Hollywood goes, one time my cousin Walt got a cat stuck up his ass.
Right. That story, I imagine it's based off the fucking Richard Gere rumor that he had a girl up his ass. But I'm glad that's how the movie started. That joke had not aged particularly well, but I'm glad that's how it started. And then we get a bunch of shots of the wall, a bunch of sign gags. I like how there's a bunch of sign gags, like rug munchers, get it? Eating rugs.
Because lesbians.
Right. Yeah, squirt gun. And then like Sbarro's is the one who's like, no, you can use the Sbarro's brand. We here at Sbarro's.
Here at Sbarro's, we're proud to be next to rug munchers.
Right, down the hall from Buy Me Toys.
That does a great job of shooting it up, and then it goes right into the opening song, Social by God, I forget the band's name. And that takes place a minute into the movie?
Right, it's Social was formed by Squirt Gun.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Right. All right. So this is the first time. This is where Pat's Cross and Chris's Comic Corner comes into play. So the intro credit scenes, a bunch of comic covers with different artists, like big name artists, are attached to this with each actor. So you have guys like Cully Hammer, who would go on and co-create Red, which was turned into a movie about a decade later with Bruce Willis and Helen Mirren and a bunch of fine folk.
Interesting, because Bruce Willis is going to be the overarching villain of the second half of Shorts and Jorts podcast.
Right. Mike Allred, he'd reappear in Dogma as the guy who drew the pages that Ben Affleck's character drew. J. Scott Campbell, the co-creator of Danger Girl, Gender Teen, a bunch of other comics. Adam Hughes, who's a big name artist, would go on the Trigger stuff. The Japanese cover for Bayonetta. Joe Quesada, who would go on to become editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics 6 years later. And also was the artist on Kevin Smith's Daredevil run. Jay Lee, who was another big name in comics. Brian Stelfreeze. And one Ethan Van Schiller, who was a Jersey boy. EVS was known for Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run. He was artist on that. And also being the forefront of Comicsgate, which is the comics version of Gamergate. Him being a notorious piece of shit. Who has several YouTube videos of him mutilating Kelly Tran action figures. He's a garbage guy, and I'm sure in 1995 Kevin Smith didn't know that, but that's like the last artist you see, and I was like, oh no.
Oh god, that's the guy who was obsessed with Kelly Marie Tran. Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, that was, if 95, I'm sure his politics weren't, weren't out there like that. Also, like, that era Republican was a different type of Republican, so, I'm not trying to vote Smith. Trying to give shit to Smith. Give Smith shit, but I saw that, I was like, uh-oh, secret Nazi.
Yeah, that's definitely, like, if they do another re-release of Mallrats, probably, and you make another line of comic book covers, probably don't call him. Probably let him chill out at home for a little bit.
Let him draw his badge or turtle ripoff.
So we're also going to have a little bit of divergence here because that was the intro to the normal version of the movie, the theatrical cut. I watched the director's cut, which, remember I mentioned how the how Squirt Gun song comes in maybe about 30 seconds into the movie?
Yes.
14 and a half minutes into the movie is when the title card for Mallrats comes out.
That's insane.
In the extended cut, it is not a good scene. It helps set up stuff in the movie. The long and short of it is Brandy's father is leading a governor's ball in hopes to get a check from the governor to do his studio. Brandy is watching a telescope on the roof of the building. T.S. is an actor in a Civil War recreation or a Independent War recreation and has a musket that with a blank as part of a prop. He tries to fuck her on the roof. She says no. The musket gets caught in her hair. They're trying to pull it out of her hair. The gun gets like dangled over the roof. One of the governor's guards sees the blank fire, thinks he's trying to kill the governor. Huge commotion. The governor pulls his check. This takes them 14 fucking minutes to do. And in the midst of this, T.S. mentions his proposal really early on to Brandy.
That's wild.
Which is weird.
Again, I have not seen the actual cut, but that's wild. Also, 14 minutes for your credit roll that's some Dave Ayer Suicide Squad nonsense.
Also, Brandy drops a really great line, which honestly doesn't get refuted at any point during the movie. Both you and my dad see me as property. Ooh.
Ooh. Right. Walter. Yeah, the Walter reference. Obviously, we all know Walter is dead. Also, is referenced in Clerks. And we have immediately. So we have a second Clerk reference in which T.S. rolls up in Bernie's house and the name Julia Dwyer is dropped. You all remember Julia Dwyer as the character Dante and Randall skip work to go to her funeral. Also, for those not in the know, why Mallrats came after Clerks, canonically, Mallrats takes place a day before Clerks. And like the greater Kevin Smith Snoochie Boochie universe.
So that means literally literally Jay and Silent Bob does some crazy shit with the mall mall to save T.S. and Brody, and then went to the quick stop to jerk around for a day.
Right, and to sell drugs.
Yes.
Right. So T.S. is there to take Brandy to a romantic vacation to Florida, Universal Studios, which I'm sure, this being a Universal movie, was easy for them to sign up on.
Yeah, which is ironic because they actually get it. They get the studios mixed up. Universal Studios in California is the one with the tram ride where Jaws pops out of the water.
Oh, no, it's in Florida too.
No, the ride is in Florida, but it's not like they specifically mentioned the Universal Studios tour tram.
Oh yes,
which is different than which is different from Florida. It was wild to me that because I think at the time they were actually just making Universal Studios Florida, but hadn't finished it yet.
It was definitely open because I was down there by then.
Yeah,
I had gone when I was a wee lad, and that Jaws ride was open. I think it was still newish though.
Oh yeah, and then also the Jaws ride was famous for being plagued with a ton of problems and issues and whatnot.
Yep. Sure was.
I also want to mention how the cut, how horrible the cut went from in the director's cut, where T.S. is basically like, I was gonna propose to you, and Brandy's like, you're dumber than I could have thought. There's such a tonal clash between that super depressing intro and the upbeat song by Squirt Gun and the theatrical cut, which was, how else am I supposed to get the gerbil out?
I think that's the problem with this movie overall, is that Kevin Smith wants to do another Clerks movie, but also wants to do a John Hughes movie. So he wants the teen drama, but also the fart gags and the branching dialogue paths. as it was a BioWare game.
I don't think
And,
he really knew what he wanted at that
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
made this. It feels really like he was doing it by the seat of his pants.
It's very disjointed. I think that's what I noticed now more so when I was younger. So yeah, TS is there to take his girlfriend to a lovely Florida vacation, and propose to her. And instead, she has to quit because Dwyer is dead, and she needs to fill on her dad's Truth or Dare dating show. She claims the dad was very upset with TS, which although again TS is a very bad name. I'm not sure why. He's with that name. She's like, oh, he's very distraught, but now he's relieved, and it cuts to him doing naked karate. You see him like work his ass, which I'm not asked for, but whatever. Man is very, very, very shaved.
Yeah, he is. Ironically enough, they were supposed to. He was also supposed to be like gray hair, and then he shaved bald. And Kevin was like, "This is so much fucking better bald."
So yeah, TS and Brandy break up. We hard cut to Brody's parents' house, where we meet Jason Lee playing Brody and Shannon Doherty playing Renee. Fun fact: a lot of these characters don't have last names.
Renee does. Renee's last name is Mosier, named after the sister of Scott Mosier, who Kevin Smith dated and was definitely an inspiration of Renee.
Right, but you don't get that in the original cut though, because like I went on it's not in the credits, and then on Wikipedia they assign some characters' last names, and there's no citation needed mark, so it is like Brody Bruce is supposed to be his last name. There's no proof of that, which is
well, they do call him Bruce in one point in the movie.
Maybe the director's cut? I thought that. Oh yeah, he does. I thought that was like a.
They do call him. Yeah. Oh no. And by the way, his name being Brody Bruce is again a call to Jaws, Kevin Smith's favorite film of all time.
Excellent. Did not know that. So they wake up at 10 a.m. I believe. Not 9 or 10 a.m. Jason Lee wants to go back to bed. He instead fires up his Sega Genesis to play some first-party Sega NHL game.
I want to say it's NHL 94.
It wouldn't be NHL because that's the EA series. This was a Sega sports game. You can tell because there's a big Sega logo placed in the corner. Sega NHL game. Is it? Because let's see.
But they're
playing the first party.
The Whalers, RIP, versus the Canucks.
So it was probably NHL All-Star Hockey. That was Sega's first party game, if not Mario Lemieux. Because remember, Sega did a bunch of like celebrity stuff. It was like Joe Montana football, Mario Lemieux hockey, Tom Lasado baseball.
Oh my god, yeah, I forgot all about all that.
I'm gonna probably say it's Mario Lemieux, unless it's either that or NHL All-Star Hockey. Because that was the first party Sega games, not the standard NHL EA games, which were very, very, very good. I will defend those games.
We also have an instance of Brody having the smallest fucking bed I have ever seen in my goddamn life.
Yes. It's also the first time Kevin Smith is allowed to be a whole-ass comics fan. Clerks, being a very small movie, was very much like, there was a Star Wars reference in there, but for the most part, it was very much just like, these two dudes are normal-ass dudes. Brody's room is covered with no less than 8 different Marvel Comics posters, specifically Marvel Comics because of one of the stars of this movie. So you see a bunch of, Spider-Man, X-Men, Daredevil, one of Kevin Smith's favorite characters, a Hulk poster. Just to prove that, he just dudes is super into comics, much like Smith. Smith famously sold his collection to Fun Clerks back in the day.
And then bought a bunch of it back. So Brody's comic collection is Kevin Smith's comic collection. He just put it back on set.
Brody and Shannon have a fight. Basically, she calls Brody a directionless piece of shit, which he kind of is. Like, she has to sneak into the house at night. His mom doesn't even know she exists for the most part. Brody has no job, as far as I can tell. No college. Again, a lot like Dante from Clerks, but worse.
The typical listless idiot.
Right.
So when a nice little touch, Renee goes to leave the apartment through the window. When she opens the window, if you look in the ceiling, you can actually see a mark from one of the metal jutting out of the window. It looks like it's been pushed up multiple times. There's a clear indent in the ceiling for how many times this window has been opened.
That's super clever. Holy shit. But yeah, also this is the first instance that we get Renee being peak Kevin Smith dialogue, because she's talking about how like all these heroes out there making differences, and she's crying because the only thing she do in life is fuck Brody. Which is one of the failings of this movie is like every girl character talks the same. They're all like super smart thesauruses who just word vomit, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having smart lady characters. I'm just saying if all your characters are smart lady characters, they're less unique.
It literally feels like the same character, just one's a little angrier, one's a little more reserved, one's a little more...
Right, one's justified for anger, one is that bitch doesn't get her man, blah, 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 and it's like... Also, the character to go to college, I feel like he didn't go to college, and that's proven via Dante, and then,
I think he went to film school and then dropped out.
Makes sense. So TS shows up to be miserable as, you know, he got done by his girlfriend, and Birdie has that in common. They, by the time TS arrives, Birdie has framed and hung up the breakup letter, which is a weird thing to do.
Yeah, that always kind of felt weird to me. There's also lines in the extended cut when Renee leaves that are at least 4 other instances of a problematic thing. She calls him the Arsler at least 3 times, which is not good.
Don't like that. No, like you.
And when she talks about how she goes in the bathroom in Brody's place and cries because she thinks about people doing things. And there's at least 3 lines from Brody where he's like, why? What do you go in the bathroom? Do you just rub yourself or fucking piss yourself? I don't know. And I'm like, this feels weird.
That's not great.
That's
not great. Yeah.
Also, the Kevin Smith edit has a lot of really noticeable jump cuts and not good transitions. It's definitely, like I said, interesting. And when we actually get to the mall part ourselves, I'm gonna rewind it back because the first act is so fucking different. But yeah, so TS and Brody talk about how they're both dumped, and Brody's like, let's go to the mall to relieve our stress. There's a new cookie at the cookie stand. Oh, also, by the way, as Renee leaves, there was a huge Comedy Central clock, and I missed the old Comedy Central logo so much.
Yeah. That's wild, because like Comedy Central was super new then.
Yeah, it would have been. This was before South Park even, so this was like this is when like the most they had on their plate was Dr. Katz and a bunch of reruns of like really shitty.
Like it was like old SNL, some kids in the hall, and maybe like 1 or 2 original series. But yeah, that was wild to see. Yeah, to see that. So yeah, let's go to the mall.
Also, I have a couple of notes here. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned for Sega. still, just like there's a lot of lines. Like, I think Mallrats as a whole is a lot more lines I like than Clerks, but Clerks had the better like cohesion.
Oh, it's definitely more it's definitely more quotable.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot weirder and like not as it's trying to find his identity throughout the movie.
I too am in the framing business is great. Like that's such a good fucking line on how to talk about you getting dumped.
Right. Also, like the fact she calls you cowl, and he's like, oh, that's an insult. Yeah, it means frightened, weak will. Just I thought it was the one compliment in the letter.
And she talks about my dick too, which shows what all women want. And then they talk about what could potentially cause their girlfriends to break up with them. And Brody mentions that he's like, "Did you ever fart in front of your girlfriend? Do you think she broke up with you just because you farted in front of her? I farted while she was going down on me. I couldn't help it."
Right. That whole dialogue, it's gross but funny.
Yeah.
It also helps to remind us, which I met critics who went in thinking Kevin Smith was an indie darling were probably taken back because we had a gerbil joke, a girl dies in the pool joke, and now a fart joke.
On the whole, like Clerks, they may have fucked a dead guy, but there's a couple of doo-doo jokes in this movie.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
There's a big doo-doo joke.
What kind of cookie do you think would be at, because they eventually show the cookie stand later on, and it looks like it's just a normal ass cookie. What kind of cookie do you think you would have to have in order to make you go, God damn, I need to go there right now?
Personally, like, I need a modified chocolate chip. Like, like a chocolate chip as a base is good, but I need something in there, like, extra. Like, if you want to throw in some, like, actual chunks of Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, now we're talking, like, M&M or Reese's Pieces ain't gonna, like, get me excited to go to the mall. But a good soft bake with some actual chunks of Reese's or Snickers or something like that, now we're talking, yeah?
All right, so this actually brings up an interesting question. I'm gonna talk about cookies for the next 3
Hell
minutes.
Hell yeah!
Are you a fan of the soft? It sounds to me like you're more a fan of the crunch cookie.
No, I like a good soft, TBH.
Okay, that's my favorite cookie, believe it or not, is oatmeal raisin.
Okay.
The king of the soft cookies. And a good, chewy oatmeal raisin is so goddamn good. And I bring this all up because before viewing this, the last experience I had with Mallrats was in our local Alamo. They did a viewing party of Mallrats. It was like something like you pay like $50 for a ticket, but the meal is already planned out. And all the I think something like 70% of the proceeds go to charity. So I was down for that.
Better. Yeah, that's nice.
The meal was a soda float. They literally have Brody's cup with 5 different kinds of sodas in it. A milkshake.
Right.
A milkshake. A really good burger.
Okay.
A cookie.
Okay.
And for the end, well, I'll save dessert for the end.
Is it tied to a certain bag?
Yes, it is.
Blast.
All of these meals, by the way, came paired with a specific beer because the beer company
now we're talking.
Sponsored the event. And literally, the guy who, like, the representative from the beer company was like, our last beer cup, we're gonna give you the can, because he's like, you see where the 57's printed on that, or whatever number where it's printed on that. He's like, if you puncture a couple of holes in there and put your weed on it, you can totally turn this into a bong. Snoochie boochies. Have a good night, everybody.
That's wild. That is wild.
But the cookie that they made for this one was a soft chocolate chip with gobs of peanut butter and some pretzels baked into it. And I have never had pretzels in a cookie beforehand. And it was a fucking life-changing experience.
That's a cookie I go to the mall for. That sounds very, very good. I get down with that. Because Haley and I were watching the Hulu last weekend as we were, as one does. We got an ad for a Take 5 bar, and the next day I walked over to the Dollar General, aka the DG, and I bought us a fuck ton of Take 5s, because Take 5 is that good combination of chocolate, peanut butter, pretzel. So that in cookie form,
surprisingly, carbs and sugar and carbs. It's a good fucking combination.
Yeah, this is why I'll never do, no, keto is no sugar, right? Either way.
Yeah, most of them
in general.
Yeah.
One of those diets are no carb, and that is a dumb life I would to live, in my opinion. Sorry to offend any keto enthusiasts, but no. So we go to the mall. It's a Minnesota mall disguised as a Jersey mall, and who do we bump to first? But Ben Affleck's character, Shannon.
So I want to talk a little bit about fashion in this movie. I want to point out that TS is wearing no fewer than 4 different kinds of plaid.
Right.
Which is monstrous and a crime. Brody
Before
is wearing...
touch Affleck, I have to intervene, but go with Brody.
Brody's shirt has always seemed like the most interesting shirt in the world to me. And a nice, like, brown jacket on top of it. I did not find this out until I researched this for this podcast, but Brody's shirt is actually an amalgamation of all the headshots of the faces of the people who auditioned for the role of Brody.
Wow, that's what that shirt was? Holy shit.
Smith layered them on top of each other and made this weird alien-looking thing.
Right.
And I love that effect.
That is wild. I thought it was like some kind of weird band T-shirt that Jason Lee was super into. That's why you could never find it, because he's a skater dude. Ben Affleck, I have a note. I have the following note, Tom. It says Affleck equals big Dominican suit.
Ben Affleck looks like a Okay, Ben Affleck.
Boss baby.
Ben Affleck looks like a character in a movie who was playing like a big like like a Kingpin. If someone took Kingpin from any of the Spider-Man movies and then shot him with a gun that turned him into a teenager, but he still had that big suit on his like now tiny teenage body, that's what Ben Affleck's character looks like. They found the biggest fucking suit on the planet Earth and stuffed Ben Affleck, who's not like a tiny guy either. He's a fucking sizable dude, and they put him in this fucking tiny little. They put him in this fucking gigantic suit.
Not to get too 90s nostalgic. Remember the hit Nickelodeon cartoon Doug?
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
When they had like the big suits and the little bodies, that's what I thought of. It's So yeah, like they run to.
He's wearing a gray suit with a gray shirt, and neither of them fit him.
No, they're very big. He immediately starts shit with TS and Brody, which is gonna play out through a number of ways shot this film. And then we cut to Willem, who has to be a friend of somebody. I mean, I get why he's in the movie later on, but Willem has the same problem where I had, where I couldn't see the big magic picture thing. Tom, did your little newspaper have like the magic eye and the Sunday Fundays where you had to stare at it and get the image?
I love the magic eye. I was one of those kids who was fucking obsessed with magic eye as a kid. There was a series of really good choose your own adventure books that I have not been able to find them for the fucking life of me. Hello, Ashley. I have not been able to find these books for the fucking life of me. So I still have my copy somewhere, but they were choose your own adventure books that relied on your ability to see stereoscopic images. As you know, they're like, you walk down the hall, you hear a noise behind you, but you can't make through the mist. What do you do? And it'll be like, if you decide to go forward, go to this page. If you decide to turn back and run, go to this page. And you're supposed to turn and look at the stereoscopic image and determine if it's going to be like an angry orc holding a sword, or if it's like a
I definitely remember those at the old Scholastic Book Fair.
Yeah, or like a baby with a pacifier waving at you.
Right. Either way, what it was, like, my eyes working on, if it was on a poster or a big image, it'd be fine. But in the Sunday Funnies, I just couldn't see it. Like, I would see, like the erased image, but I couldn't make it out. So I felt for William the first time I saw this, him speaking about his inability to see the quote-unquote goddamn sailboat.
Which, when I first saw it on VHS, in my tiny little room, on my tiny little CRT TV, I could not make out what that 3D image was for the life of me. But when I looked at this again in fucking Blu-ray quality on Amazon, or the Blu-ray of the director's cut I found,
legally Amazon.com.
I was able to see it in clear fucking detail, and guess what? There's no sailboat in the image.
That's great.
It's a series of geometric shapes. It's like a sphere, a pyramid, a box. There's no fucking sailboat. They managed to, instead of like, hiring an agency to make a stereoscopic image of a sailboat, they just fucking took one and assumed that people in the theater wouldn't be able to see it in time. And yeah, there's no sailboat on it.
Right. It's also worth mentioning that these two tracked down Willem because they're constructing a large stage, and they figured he would know. He does not know, but he says and directs them to another pair who definitely knows. And, hey kids, it's Jay and Silent Bob.
Before we get to Jay and Silent Bob, though, it's worth pointing out that Willem is actually supposed to be Snowball from Clerks, but they decided not to hire the same actor, who was Scott Moser, one of Kevin Smith's best friends. They were gonna initially have him reprise the role, but then Ethan Suplee, a man who has acted in a ton of variety of different movies and also played the most racist human being alive in American History X.
Oh, right. Holy shit.
Yeah. Wonderful man. Wonderful actor. Yeah, wonderful actor, wonderful man, but he played a horrible person in that movie. They auditioned him for, I think he was actually auditioning for the role of Silent Bob. And they were like, we have to have him in our movie. This guy is fucking hilarious. So they had him be Wilhelm.
Right.
They're like, fuck it. The audience
Right.
isn't going to give a shit. The audience probably isn't going to even notice. Yeah, one of the better choices in this film.
It's also worth noting that BJ and the Bears mentioned, which is
of
the several like Burt Reynolds related projects.
I have written down here, a BJ and the Bear reboot would rule ass.
I think Smith was actually trying for that. I know that and Fletch were his two dream projects, and none of them took off.
Yep.
But again, where is Dante and Randall to hate that Jay and Silent Bob? Brody and TS embrace the chaos that is Jay and Silent Bob. Jay and Silent Bob are outside of the aforementioned Walter pet shop, in which they are dancing in front of the kittens.
Yep. Adorable kittens. Also, I am glad that we have reached a point, as a person who's worked at a shelter, I am glad we have reached a point where we don't really have kittens in a pet shop anymore. You really should be going to a shelter to get them.
Right.
But it's wild to think that this movie came out at a time when they have at least 3 scenes where they have I call it comic book for dummies scene, where they're talking about how they're gonna destroy the stage, which, by the way, Brandy's father is now trying to build a game show.
Right.
On
also,
stage.
yeah. This is where we get Kevin Smith as a nerd jubilee, because we have 3 different fucking nerd property references. It starts off with them wanting to destroy the stage, and they make a Star Wars Death Star reference, again, going back to Clerks. 2, Richard LaForge, who is the nasty security guard in town. What I caught the background, Tom, there are 2 dudes with hard hats. One of them is in green and blue, the other one is in white and red, and I fully believe that is a Super Mario reference.
That might be. LaForce himself is also a reference to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
That is wild. And then Jay busts out line, I'm gonna break it, Wolverine. I'm sorry. Should I call you Weapon X? No, call me Wolverine. Which, Tom and I, we were talking about this before, it's wild that this is back in the day where Wolverine was not a household name. Like, we didn't have the Hugh Jackman movies yet.
Unless
that
you watch,
doing well.
Yeah, unless you watch Fox Kids, you wouldn't really, or read comics, you wouldn't really know who Wolverine was. Like, the fighting games weren't really popular yet, and
no, we're existing.
So
I think we're
You have to have a moment where Brody has to lean in and explain to TS what Wolverine, who Wolverine is, and what adamantium is, and we have a couple of moments here where I genuinely can't tell if TS is a nerd or not.
He's not, because there's that line in the beginning of the movie where Brody's just like, I tried teach you how to handle comics in the 6th grade, but you were too busy interested in girls.
Yeah, but we're gonna come back to that later, because there's a couple of things later that I don't really know about that. Also, do we want to break in here and talk about the director's cut and how yes, because things are completely fucking different?
Yes.
All right, so the scenes of them getting up to the mall are completely different. As I told you, they had the 14-minute long intro of TS almost shooting the governor, him and Brandy breaking up. Renee leaving is more or less the same, but throughout the entire film of the director's cut, the extended cut, TS is basically being hounded by media, by CNN, NBC, who want to interview him about why he tried to shoot the governor. So when he shows up at Brody's house, there's at least 3 news vans following him, and when he knocks on the door, Brody says, "Chien mon frere," like whatever the French phrase from My Brother is. He goes, "Chien mon frere, I thought you, how's it going, Oswald?" He makes basically a Lee Harvey Oswald joke. And the reason why they're hiding out in the basement in the first place is because people from news stories are trying to find him and interview him and whatnot. And
that is fuck wild.
So after they both talk about the framing business thing, he's like, we should, let's go to the mall. I'll drive you to Brandy's beforehand if you want to try and work things out with her. And TS is like, I don't care about the mall, but if you'll drive me to Brandy so I don't have to worry about the news vans following me, I'll take you up on that.
I'm glad that was cut, because that seems like just too much.
It's even more than that, because they drive to Brandy's house. And there's already a couple of newsvans stationed out in front, and Brody's like, I'm gonna go run interference, you go in back and find Brandy. Brody mentions at least 3 different times that he's always wanted to be on television in the director's cut.
Okay.
Which does play into things later on. It does establish a character trait
It
later
does.
on.
Yes, especially at the end.
So Brody goes to these news people and he's like, oh yeah, I live next door to the Zvennings. They practice satanic rituals and are crazy people. And here, if you come with me, they're like, can we go on your property and use the telescope to look in and spy on them to see this? He's like, yeah, we could just go on their property here by the window. I'll give you the permission for it. I'll give you the okay for it to basically film inside of their house. So while TS and Brandy are trying to work things out, to which TS really acts like a possessive dick, really acts like a possessive dick. The film studio and Brody are filming Brandy's dad coming out of the shower, which actually the scenes of Michael Rooker's ass come initially from that segment.
That explains the random bout of nudity. Okay.
Yep.
That's insane.
Also, on their drive to the mall from there, they pass by the Quick Stop, and they actually play the Mallrats theme, which otherwise doesn't get played until the end of the movie.
Right.
One thing I actually do kind of like about that, though, is because they have this entire arc in the beginning, and they just don't go straight to the mall, when you see that Shannon Hamilton starts to date Renee, it feels like half a day has passed. It feels like time has passed.
Right.
Otherwise, it feels really weird that it feels like she just walked out of Brody's house right into another relationship. With this, is at least a couple of hours filled in by that trip before they even get to the mall.
Oh, that makes sense.
That can make some of the pacing problems in the movie feel a little more justified.
Right. Yeah, because the pacing is otherwise it's kind of weird. There's a lot of implied or not shown, which I think is kind of neat, but also kind of it's weird. The pacing's all over the place. I'm glad not everything's shown on camera, but also on the other hand, it's also so much.
Yeah. I feel mixed about it as to which one I actually prefer.
Right. I also don't think this needs to be a longer movie. I think 90 minutes is a good length for Mallrats. Yeah.
The extended cut, by the way, is 2 hours. Definitely doesn't need. It definitely doesn't need. So, speaking of Shannon Doherty, you may notice that she changes outfits about 5 times in this movie.
Alright, so it's not me, right?
No, so there's a reason for this. Shannon Doherty had a clause in her contract saying that she got to keep any piece of clothing that they bought for her for the film.
Oh.
So when she heard that, she made the request that her character change clothes at the mall 5 times so she could keep 5 separate outfits.
That's insane. That's a weird clause, but sure, whatever, Shannon.
And when she asked Kevin Smith about it, Kevin Smith's like, fuck it, it's the studio's money, go for it.
Alright, hey, free meals. I guess free clothes in the States. So going back to the Prime Clerks, the Prime Mallrats timeline, Jane, Silent Bob said they were planning to short out stage anyway. They agree to it. And they say goodbye to the baby kittens. Cut back to William. Yeah, come back to William trying to fucking see the goddamn sailboat. Some kid approaches that and says, "Oh, look, it's a scooter." He calls the child a dumb bastard, saying it's a sailboat, and the child explains to that, and then William just screams, "You know what? There is no Easter Bunny. All it is a guy in the suit." Which, again, super juvenile scene, but I'm here for it. Yelling at kids is
a
fun.
Sailboat, stupid head.
Yeah, he goes with a super head, and that sends him off the rails.
It gets even better because, unlike Clerks, which really didn't have a lot of non-diegetic music or ambiance, nearly everything you heard in that had something to do with the scene going on. Right. Mallrats has a ton of non-diegetic music, meaning that it's, like when you hear something when you get scared by something and you hear a dun-dun-dun, that's not a sound that anyone in the world is hearing, hence non-diegetic music. So when he
Right.
gets mad, you can hear like a fucking chorus opening up behind him. Dun 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 dun. You know what?
Yeah.
There is no Easter Bunny. It's just a guy in a suit.
Him just calling the child, "You dumb bastard," broke me.
There are a lot of really clever line readings like that. So after that, Brody sees Renee shopping, tries to
Oh no!
make...
Let's the exchange though. The two peak Kevin Smith exchanges happened before that.
Oh,
we have
right.
Superman sex talk, which has a line blows a load like a shotgun, which I have blows a load like a shotgun, comma, am I Brody? Which that's
Thanks a lot for coming out, everybody.
Yes, yeah, that definitely struck a chord with me. And then, again, this peak Kevin Smith dialogue, Brody and TS talking about what's the difference between the food court and a snack shop outside of the food court area.
A standalone eatery.
Right, yes. It's very much like State versus Smith's thing. It's also Kevin Smith doing Kevin Smith stuff. That feels at home with Clerks. Still feels a little weird in Mallrats because of just the nature of it being like a John Hughes movie.
It doesn't pop out. It doesn't become Mallrats again until TSS. How did I go from having the verge of having hot Floridian sex with Brandy to waxing intellectual about Superman with you at the food court?
Yes, yes.
Which is a great
also,
line.
Also, hammers across how much of a pig Brody is.
Also, apparently the entire discussion there about Lois Lane, Superman, and Wonder Woman came from something that wasn't like Kevin Smith original dialogue. That was actually like it came from a thesis someone wrote in like,
okay,
I want to say the 70s.
Okay. If you told me that was something that Kevin Smith thought about a lot as a child, I would have believed you.
It's probably something that he read.
Hands down. Like, no, yeah, it's just
take it from here. I'm actually gonna look that up.
Okay. So yeah, now Brody runs into Renee. Renee's like, "No, we are broken up," and then Brody wants his joint custody of what is it? The joint custody of the mall, and wants his copy of Punisher War Journal, his copy of Fletch, which is kind of what was his dream project, and his remote for his TV, which the three things I left that she left at her place, which is I get the comic and the copy of Fletch. What his remote was doing at her place to me is fucking wild, but it is a good gag.
Okay, so Man of Steel, Woman of Kleenex is a 1969 nice essay in which science fiction author Larry Niven details the problems that Superman would face in sexual intercourse and reproduction with the human woman, using arguments based on humorous reconciliation.
I'm sorry, Tom, what year was that again?
1969, of course.
Nice.
Between physics, biology, and the abilities of Kryptonians as presented in Superman comic books. The issues discussed include Superman's loss of physical control during intercourse, the presumed superpowers of Superman's sperm cells, genetic incompatibility between humans and Kryptonians, the dangers to the woman during gestation. The title is a reference to Superman's power and invulnerability, contrasting it with the relatively fragility, like a Kleenex brand facial tissue, of a human. The hypothetical woman is referred to in the essay as LL, the initial of three women Superman has been romantically involved with: Lois Lane, Lana Lang, and Lois Lamaris. I didn't even fucking think of that.
That is wild. It also, what I love about this is, so we are in history. Superman and Lois dropped this past week on CW, which is a tale of Superman, his two teen sons, and Lois Lane. And to get around that kind of issue, they made it a plot point that when Lois was pregnant on Supergirl, they went back to another Krypton, which had a red sun, so Lois would give a normal human birth to avoid getting a quote-unquote a load blow through her like a shotgun.
It's
Which
wild to me.
I want to believe the timeline was that essay, Mallrats, CW, this word about Superman's killer cop.
I can't believe something like that came out almost like fucking like 30 years before Mallrats.
Now that would be a Twitter shitpost. Like it'd be
Yeah.
a fucking drill just talking about Superman come.
Anyway, so they talk about visitation rights for the mall, and Shannon Doherty tells Brody basically, I put up with your shit, I'm not putting up with it anymore. And she talks about how she, for your birthday when I gave you the striptease to the theme of Mighty Mouse, and Jason Lee gives the best smirk I've ever seen a human being give.
Yeah.
He gives the perfect, like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
There's a scene in the extended cut where after she leaves, he goes, it's not Mighty Mouse, it's Wonder Woman. And Mighty Mouse is such a funnier. I'm so glad they made that cut.
Yeah, it's way funnier. That's very good. So after she blows off Brody, it is the first time Jay and Silent Bob strike back at the mall.
With Operation Drive-By.
Right. I love the Jay and Silent Bob prints. I love the art style on that. I like the fucking both of them. We had two of them, right?
Yep.
Both of them end with Victoria's motherfucking J poses. Also, Jay makes the point out that he is exactly going Berserk style, Berserk Wolverine style.
I also love that he calls himself Fat Buds J.
Yes.
And that they continually point out LaForge's stupid hat.
Yes, it is a very bad hat, but I'm glad it's referenced.
Funny thing about LaForge, the actor who played LaForge is a fucking world's strongest man.
Really?
He is a he is a Estonian bodybuilder. And like legitimately completed as like one of the world's strongest men. He is the strongest person on set by leaps and fucking bounds, and I want to say, I think he was related to someone on Game of Thrones, but I don't believe that was the case. I think they had very similar last names.
That's wild. God.
But yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah, there are videos of this guy. There are videos of this guy basically like throwing refrigerators like they're nothing.
During the Planexation, a small child wanders over to Jay and Silent Bob, and Silent Bob shoos him away. When Silent Bob goes to assault LaFord with a sock full of quarters, the small child pushes a small wooden train in front of him, which instead of insulting LaFord, Silent Bob ends up handing the quarters to LaFord and ends up crashing into a changing room where we see who's the character's name? Oh god, it's not
Gwen.
Gwen, as played by Kevin Smith's then girlfriend,
soon to be girlfriend,
and inspiration for Chasing Amy, Joey Lawrence. Oh, is it not Joey Lawrence? Oh my god, that's
Joey Lauren Adams.
Yeah, Joe. Thank you.
So, a couple of interesting things about that. The model did he crash into the was it the time he crashed into the there was like one where he crashed into a store that had a girl like lifting a skirt kind of, and he crashed right into
that's second time Operation Dark Knight.
I'll save that one for that. But Joey Lauren Adams was in Dazed and Confused, which had come out right beforehand, where she played the love interest of Jeremy London, aka TS's twin brother.
Huh.
Hollywood is fucking weird.
That's wild.
But yeah, we will not be seeing the end of Joey Lauren Adams, even though her literal introduction into the Views universe was almost tits out, eventually tits out.
Yeah. Oh no, you see a dip. It's a partial nudity, hence the R rating.
Well, in the second part, there are definitely titties out.
Oh, yes. So yeah, and she, I think, does she bonk Silent Bob in the head, or does she just scream?
I think she just screams. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the plan fails. Cutbacks to Brody and TS riding the escalator, and now this is where the Clerk-style dialogue kind of fits with this movie, because there's a child tugging on his mother's leg, and Brody's just like, I don't wish any specific harm on this child, but I wish that child would fear and respect the escalator.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as a mole-going youth, I hated the escalator. I had a fear of me getting torn up by the escalator.
Yeah, because it's a like I've watched all the Final Destination movies, and there's definitely a scene in one of those where someone gets torn up in an escalator.
Oof. I'm glad I only saw one of those because oh no, I dated someone who that had a tremendous fear as escalator as a child, which growing up in Jersey is kind of unavoidable.
Yeah, particularly Jersey escalators are definitely like they're like the Australia version of an escalator.
Right. There's also 1,000 malls in Jersey. From there, we meet Trisha Jones' character. Oh, no, sorry, is she the character? T.S.
Yeah.
T.S. Quinn, aka yes.
Trish the Dish.
Dish. Which, my God, Brody. So, here's what we call one of the more problematic characters. And I don't say, this hasn't aged well. I would say this character's concept was never good.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it was bad to begin with.
A 15-year-old sex expert is a bad idea, Kevin Smith. What the fuck were you on, dude?
Yep. Related to the third sister of the Jones sisters, including Heather Jones, who we saw in Clerks. Alyssa Jones, who we will see in Chasing Amy.
Correct.
And Trisha Jones, who we see here. She is a 15-year-old sex expert who is doing a lot of research for a book that Pendant Publishing has given her a lot of money as an advance on. And she
20K, 24K.
Yep.
24K.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
book called Borgasm.
Borgasm, which is very funny.
Which is a good joke. Good joke. I'll give him that much.
And
but
in it, she
15.
fucks a lot of people.
Ages what? 15 to 48, I want to say, or 15 to 60. Which
which is definitely bad.
Kevin Smith, yeah. Not good.
And
not good.
She's like, I ask all of them for consent before videotaping it. Which, let me tell you a little thing about. Age and consent can't do can't
I have to look this up. Age of consent, New Jersey. I want to say 17. 16 in Jersey.
Yep.
Smith could have aged up a year. Ward had been great, but at least would have been legal. And dear God, man, why?
You could have made her 17 and had it just been fucking effective.
I know why for the ending, but also maybe don't write that ending.
Yeah, come up with a better idea. Yeah. It's a bad idea.
Right.
You're trying to make it work, and you shouldn't be trying to make it work.
Right. So then we get to she mentions the Shannon, who works at the Fashionable Mail, aka baby Ben Affleck in his big boy suit. Apparently he mentioned they had sex the night before, I want to say, right?
Mm-hmm. And after
and he mentioned Brody after sex, which was weird because why?
It's weird, but it's also, I'm not gonna put any names because I'm not gonna put anybody on blast, but that has definitely fucking happened to people where they're like, yeah, I fucked this guy, usually on a convention. I fucked this guy, and then he started talking shit about you. We've had to be, me and my friends have had to be like, what? Why the fuck was he talking shit about me after you banged him?
Right. That is so weird. It's also the first time we get this when the running gag in this movie revolving a Volkswagen, which I like that running gag.
Yeah. Also, by the way, there is a line. There's also a line in the extended cut where Trish almost looks directly at the camera and goes, "I have to wait until I turn 18 to submit my book and get it published because of the legal moral outrage that it would get otherwise." And I'm like, this feels like Kevin Smith admitting to the crime that he is definitely condoning with this. Why are you fucking doing this, man? Don't try and square peg this round hole. Speaking of square pegs in a round hole, you were talking about something about the back of a Volkswagen.
God, yeah. So she's like, "Oh, you're not here. You're at the mall for no reason." And Roberta replies, "No, I'm here to buy comics." And she says, "Oh, good luck with the comics," which sets up the next scene.
We also, by the way, almost passed over one of the best lines in the entire movie. So Trisha knows about TS's proposal, which was set to be done on the Jaws ride.
Yes.
And she goes, when will people learn that women want romance, not Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? To To which Brody enthusiastically as he should be, by the way, goes, "Hey, everyone wants Mr. Toad's Wild Ride."
Toad's Wild Ride. And it's also the second time where he cuts off the conversation and screams about a kid not respecting the same kids on the escalator, not respecting the rules of the escalator, which comes into play very, very soon.
Mm-hmm.
So we cut to the comic shop. So, Tom, Walt Flanagan is mentioned a whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
We actually get Walt Flanagan an appearance. He's the one who screams, "Tell him, Steve Dave." That is the in real life Walt Flanagan.
Mm-hmm. There's also more in the extended cut of them trying to get in line for it, and they couldn't use the take because literally Walt Flanagan and Fanboy and Steve Dave go from the end of the line to the front of the line very fucking quick. But I do love the line from Steve Dave, "I was warned about you."
Yes. So yeah, there is a comic shop in the mall, which I have not seen one of those in 100 years. The last time I saw any nerd shop in the mall, it was very sad, and I'll say that in the stream later. But there is they are trying to get in. Brody is escorted away from the comic shop and then thrown out of the mall permanently, as said child is now caught in the escalator.
Mm-hmm. And a bloodbath ensues.
Sue's right. Brody was right, which, again, maybe don't fucking, give praise to Brody for his shitty behavior, but, being right at the escalator is a fair fact. We cut back to Jay and Silent Bob, which, again, hey, if the comic shop and the Wolverine thing wasn't a fucking big tell that Kevin Smith was a nerd, we have Operation Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
In which now they were going to try to remove the main pin from the Deus Ex Death Star little fucking death hole, as you what the hell fuck was called, via Silent Bob fucking swinging across the mall in his Batman helmet to remove this pin. He opens up his trench coat like Batman did in the Keaton films. Misses by a mile, and here the point where he flies headfirst into Joey Lawrence's changing room, and he gets bopped in the head.
This time titties are out, and
yeah. Oh, sorry. Was it okay?
Yeah. Also, the woman in the poster that he crashed into, that was Jason Lee's real life at the time, who modeled for that image.
That's wild.
I also have a note.
Wild.
I also have a note written down here from that time, because right before they actually go to the comic shop, you can see a video store behind them that has a couple like neon stars up in the sign. I am almost positive that is supposed to be the video store that Randall went to in Clerks.
Oh, right. Okay, that's wild. That's that would be.
I am almost positive.
Okay.
So after that, they're at the food court proper this time, talking about what they should do with their respective love lives, and Brody mentions that his grandmother said, "Why buy the cow when you can get the sex for free?"
Right. And then she became a lesbian at age 60.
So, being that we know that Randall and Brody are related, do you think that's the same grandmother? I think that might be the same grandmother.
Yeah, I think it's the same grandmother. God, Brody's a pig. Also, Jay and Silent Bob, they find them right for shelter. Hence the line, that dude's fast. LaFord is faster than Walt Flanagan's dog, which is the third Walt Flanagan reference in this movie.
Yep, and that dog will make. That dog will also make multiple appearances, particularly in Clerks the Animated Series.
Yes. So there's that. So after that, they spot Renee, and here is what I like to call the Kevin Smith long con. Did you see what was on the back of Renee's jacket, Tom?
Is it the one where particularly Brody says, "Is that my jacket?" The Degrassi jacket.
Yes, the Degrassi jacket.
Not Degrassi. It's actually not Degrassi. It's a C, because they couldn't. They tried to get the Degrassi logo and they couldn't. Okay. So they changed the G to a C and just made a Degrassi jacket.
Because I want to say nearly 10 years later, Jane Silent Bob would appear in Degrassi as the two-part of Jane Silent Bob go to Degrassi.
Yep. The pins are being set up here.
Right. That's an insane, calling their shot right there. But, so Renee is with Shannon, the asshole from the Fashionable Mail, and Brody, his tiny cup, wants TS to run interference.
Mm-hmm. TS is not good at running interference. He's like barely good at running interference.
No. Despite his inability to run interference, it works. They have a fight in the elevator. Now, Tom, remember when I said earlier, like, there's some deep shit comic book references stuff?
Yep.
What are the things Renee and Brody reunite and have the fight in the elevator? Renee says, "I don't care about what two major comic labels are having a crossover with Chromium die cut covers."
Mm-hmm.
Which you would figure, okay, it's a Marvel versus DC reference, right?
That's what I assumed. Yeah.
It is not. That
Really?
is a reference to the then relevant comic country Valiant and Image Comics doing a wildly successful two-part crossover affair that never finished. They shipped like one issue with 1 million variant covers, one of them being a Chromium die cut, and it never finished. But that's the joke, and like that is some Kevin Smith nerd ass shit. Like, no one who didn't grow up reading Wizard magazine would get that, and I applaud him for writing that, because it's such a throwaway line, but like, okay, we get it.
And they say it so fast. Like, one of my notes here is that Mallrats has a lot more yelling.
Right.
Than like, Clerks did. And it's all, like, so fast that I actually had to put subtitles on for Amazon, and I had to go back and rewatch scenes.
Yeah. I watched it all on Amazon with subtitles on, and I think this is why I kind of like adored this movie growing up, because Kevin Smith was writing a movie, and I hate this, you say this for me, because I was the 17-year-old reading Wizard magazine every month, going to the comic shop every week, so like, I didn't get, it's just like, it's the I feel seen bullshit, I mean, it's a lot more important now when it's people of color or sexual orientations, but being a white kid is like, oh, he said a comic book thing, yay, I'm happy, it's more of a happy seal clap.
Yeah, it was something that we, like, nerds at the time really weren't being catered to all that much.
Because like the Batman movies were a different animal back then. I mean, we got a comic movie once every 3 years, and now it wasn't like Marvel on our TV every week.
Yeah.
Which, it's insane though. That's the fucking, because like the only Image properties before The Walking Dead became a huge thing, the only Image properties that took off were like the Spawn movie that no one remembers, right?
Yeah. I also have notes down that it is the biggest goddamn elevator in the universe.
Right. So Renee and Brody have a big fight. She questions both Brody's dick size and libido, so they fuck.
Yep. Also, I'm adding this to the problematic count. Maybe, just maybe.
Right.
Ask for consent before, going for it. Brody kind of just went for it, and don't do that. Don't do that.
That was See, like that, I didn't take as fucking as offensive, because obviously she didn't say no and was cool with it. But when she called them the R slur is when I was like, oh no, this has not aged particularly well.
Yeah. God. Then we kind of reach the Clerks part of Mallrats, which is Gwen, TS, and Brody kind of just talking about relationships in general, and Brody talks about spooning but having no location to put his other arm.
Oh right, because at this point now it's Gwen. Gwen catches up with TS and Brody after Silent Bob has crashed two of her fucking attempts to try on clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So now she's trying on clothes in the middle of a lingerie shop, which feels like it's breaking every single health code on the planet, but it's also very Jersey accurate, so...
Right. All Staten Island accurate, I confirmed never had a kid's arrest for 2 years. It also we find out that Gwen and TS dated, except for TS cheated on him like crazy, which again, another Kevin Smith character who's been had a partner who cheated on him repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
Dante.
So Brody breaks with them to fill up his cup after having a very spirited talk with Gwen regarding her cheating, where Rick Derrick makes a goddamn appearance again, as we find out that Gwen fucked him in a costume party and
Yes.
Smokey fucked the bandit.
Right, so which is the second Burt Reynolds reference in this movie.
Yep, also
But also
fucked Rick
ties-
Dares.
Yeah. So
I just want to talk about the cup for a second, because
yes, Dante. God, Dante. Brody's small cup.
Brody's small cup, he goes to refill it, and things in this film just overall felt less purposeful, and I feel like the cup is a perfect example. He really didn't have any reason why he had the cup all the time. It felt like a quirk that was written first, and then reason was added in later.
Right.
It's one of those things where I feel like you could have gotten rid of it and lost none of his characterization with it.
See, I like the idea because it's just like, oh no, this is how cheap he is. He brings a small cup to the mall to get free refills.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's unnecessary, but like I found because it's like, oh well, this is why he's a bad guy.
Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of like, it feels like that was just something written first, and then like, it.
Oh yeah, right. They said the rest of the movie.
It's like when you write a movie and you write your friends and characters into it, and you're able to pull a lot of real life characterization from them because they're real people and you know them. But then when you have to write a character that isn't based on someone that you know, you have to kind of like, you don't really think of, like you're kind of almost writing backwards. It kind of feels like T.S. and Brody were written backwards to fit the hole in the movie, rather than like Dante and Randall, who were obviously written for Smith and his friends.
Right.
Who felt a lot more alive out when the camera stopped rolling.
I do like him asking for a Coke and no ice in this very small cup before Ben Affleck's character drags into the one of the employee-only areas of the mall to beat the shit out of him.
Which, by the way, in the extended cut, he punches him like 5 more fucking times.
Oof. Yeah. So Shannon beats up Brody, explains his master plan that he likes going after vulnerable women and then fucking them in the ass. Which incredible place. Which second time Brody asks like the back of a Volkswagen.
Like the back of a Volkswagen, which is still, by the way, a funny line. And
yeah,
I also do have to laugh where he's like, I fuck women in a place where most women dread to be fucked. And I think back in my experiences and times in life and went, really? Huh.
Yeah. I'm not gonna comment on that one because anyway. To each their own.
But yeah, after that entire scene, obviously Brody gets the shit kicked out of him. Jay and Silent Bob are nursing him back to health.
Right.
Where they think the Easter Bunny. Yeah, in the candy shop where they think the Easter Bunny.
Right. Brody says the Easter Bunny beat him up because he only said that the Easter Bunny at the Menlo Park actual mall was more convincing. So Jay and Silent Bob swear vanish, beat up the Easter Bunny, and then several small children trying to beat up Jay and Silent Bob.
Yep, which is again, really funny.
Was that needed? No. Do I appreciate them filming that? Absolutely.
But right before that, it's Gwen and T.S. talking, and the movie has a problem where it keeps telling us that T.S. is really a good person and a good catch and a good boyfriend, but they don't show it. They don't show it at all. So I am in no way inclined to believe them when they keep telling us this. He still acts super self-centered. Show don't tell. This movie is so much. Gwen's entire existence in this film is to show titties and convince people T.S. is actually good.
Right, which
kinda isn't. No one in this movie is really the purest characters in this movie are Jay and Silent Bob.
Right, and Stanley. Which we'll get back to Stan in a bit. Maybe to the bit. Maybe next week.
Yeah, we're checking our time here, and we were prepared to push this till 8:15 if needed, but we may be better off just cutting it at the halfway point of the movie and doing another hour next week.
Yeah. I say we do this for another 5 minutes, and then we'll start again at 7 o'clock next week to do part 2 of this.
I feel like that'll work out. That'll work out great.
Yeah. So, yeah. So this is when Gwen and Brandy talk, which again is a big example of show don't tell, with a lot of telling of Gwen saying how good of a dude TS is, Brandy being like, well, I just tried to do right for my dad, and Gwen's like, well, he still loves you. He's here because you're here. Oh, let me say, he's here because you're here. Also, if you don't fucking, if you don't, get back with him, I'm gonna go after him. Which is like, that's a little weird.
Yeah, I would, but he's so hung up over you, and it's like,
That's a weird fucking It's like, oh, yeah, so desirable. It's like telling us he's a good dude. He's so desirable. I was like, is he?
But he really doesn't. Like, he is completely self-centered. He was acting like a possessive dick, and
he just doesn't want to compromise. Like, also, if you're planning to go to Florida, I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, so cut back to Brody and TS, where they're summoned by Svenning's henchmen who want to talk to them. In which Brody tells TS he should stink palm him, which again, the gross bathroom humor of this movie. Stink palming is when you fucking take your hand and just put it down the back of your pants, kind of like absorb the stink of it, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls it out and just look at that butt smell on it. TS is like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Brody stops and obviously is gonna do this.
A small price to pay for the smiting of one's enemy because your hand smells like ass. But at the same time, have you ever heard the peasant theory of you have an emperor, a civilian, and a peasant? The emperor can't kill, the peasant can kill, a civilian can't kill an emperor, but a peasant can kill an emperor because they have nothing to lose.
Right.
Oh, Trevor, you missed a lot. You missed a lot of ass talk, including.
Also,
I think we should also point out the fact that Ben Affleck's character in his comic book intro is Buttman comic.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of scenes that fucking don't mesh with the movie, we cut to Svenning talking to a bunch of suits for the network, and this seems like, remember the episode of Simpsons where Homer goes back to college?
Mm-hmm.
And it's he's watching the college comedy show. It's just like Nick is like, nothing better go wrong today. Nixon's coming to town. Oh, the bra ball better work, nerdlinger.
Hey.
That's his bit. That's how that bit is. It just like he's just like, this dating show yours better go well, or else you're done at the network.
So this is all stuff that the extended cut actually dealt with. So initially, Svenning's goal is to get his network financed, and he was initially supposed to do that with the governor's ball. He lost a check for that, so that gave him a day before his deadline to try to raise the money and get a network executive to sign him. So the entire reason why the mall set is being built in the span of a day is because he had a day to build it.
Right.
So he's not there's a reason why he's rushing through everything. And particularly even the network executives call out, we don't want a repeat of what happened to the governor's ball, which is a scene that confused the hell out of everyone, but that was from the original version of it. So that was just a scene that they never bothered to edit from the original one.
Right.
And
yeah, it so seems so out of place.
That's the reason why Brandy's father is working so hard to try and make this thing a success, is because if he doesn't get the funding through that, he basically loses his network.
Right. So then, TS shows up there, and fucking Svenning does a monologue. I can't tell if it's a Godfather reference or a Lex Luthor reference. And I think it's a Lex Luthor reference because there's another Superman joke. We've given the Superman joke earlier, and another gag we'll get to next week. But the speech makes no sense about how he has how TS has no ambition, no job, and TS is in college. Like they point out repeatedly that dude is in college, and now that we're seeing how much was cut out, I feel like that was written. Yeah. And then lost the cut.
It was. So it feels weird because it feels like they just called him in literally to say, hey, fuck you, and then go away. he initially called TS over because he wanted to ask him to leave the studio.
Right.
To not cause a scene. Because throughout the entire day, people are asking TS, hey, I saw you on the news, because he tried to shoot the governor.
Right.
So the entire scene of that is TS and Mr. Svenning are talking, and TS lets it slip that he was going to ask Brandy to marry him.
Right.
And that is what causes him to go from friendly, trying to cajole him out, into super angry, like, you want to marry my daughter? Now, I have no doubt that you fucked my daughter, but I'm never going to let you marry her. Like,
that makes sense if that was kept in the movie, but without that in the movie, it is this weird shit show.
But for all the good that scene brings out, they also bring out some other things in the extended cut where Mr. Svenning talks about how Brandy's mother left them and he raised her.
Oh, okay.
They also bring up for literally no fucking reason that Brandy's mother was 15 when she had her and Mr. Svenning was 14.
That's
really fucking weird.
I'm glad that's not in the cut.
It's really weird, and it doesn't add anything to the scene. It makes no sense. He just stammers on. Michael Rooker doesn't even feel like he knows what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, a lot of weird underage stuff.
It makes the scene way, way, way weirder.
Rough.
So
okay. Brody appears.
Appears and gives him a high five.
Right, because Brody has done a stink palm. He has put his hand down his pants. He asks him what the ring is, and he's like, "Oh, this is my class of '69, cum laude." And he's like, "I hope to do a cum laude, preferably in '69." They all laugh. He offers him a chocolate pretzel, which obviously, his ass has been down there.
Which was, by the way, the final snack in the final dessert in
the Kevin Smith Mallrats.
In the Alamo one that I went to. A weird change though is Brody pretends to be their neighbor. Brody pretends to be his colleague. Like he interrupts them and goes, Mr. Svenning, I know you from like something, but because they had the entire scene where Brody pretends to be their neighbor, Mr. Svenning automatically knows who he is and goes, yes, if it isn't my neighbor.
Right, which sounds like so weird.
It makes more sense. Yeah. It ends up working.
And then, so it's real that they've been summoned to get thrown out of the mall. Oh, and it's actually a big trap. They're going to throw them out of the mall and then fake them having drugs on them so that when the cops show up, they will be promptly arrested. And we should pause and end it here. That's a good cliffhanger. How is TS and Brody going to get out of this one?
And what about Jay? What about Wilhelm looking at the sailboat?
Right.
What does he need? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what he needs is a fatty boom batty blunt.
Right. So yes, join us next week at 7 p.m. EST. Eastern Standard Time. Christ almighty, Chris. Use words. We're back next week, 7 p.m. for part two of Mallrats, because we thought this was going to be done in one, and we were terribly wrong.
We and this is, by the way, initially Chris was like, we'll give a half hour for this, or an hour for this. I'm like, we're going to need to go longer than that, my man.
Yeah, and we are wrong about that, because we need more than 90 minutes, Christ. But thank you everyone who came out tonight. We appreciate doing this. This has been a lot of fun revisiting the Mallrats, and I'm excited to talk about it again more next week. What we're gonna do is take a quick break, set up for some Tekken, and then we're gonna do some fighting, y'all. It's gonna be it's classic Chris time with some Tekken and some Among Us.
Yep. So we will be right back, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. You may see the stream go down for a second. Don't worry, we'll be right back.
Yes. Yes.
All right. See ya.